What are our statutory requirements? They're straightforward. They're in Chapter 40 of the Kansas statutes, insurance statutes, and that is to educate and advocate for consumers. That always has to be our number one priority. We have to work on that every day. We regulate insurance companies and we license insurance producers. And a little bit of color on each one of those. I told you we get in the education and advocating for consumers. We get those 12,000 calls a year. We deal with the complaints. We help bring together this concept. If you think about it, we have a really sophisticated company selling a highly technical product to an unsophisticated customer who doesn't want to live his life in the insurance world. He wants to make sure he's got his life insurance in place for his heirs. He wants to make sure he's got his assets protected. He wants to make sure he has health insurance, but he doesn't want to think, or she doesn't want to think about insurance day in and day out. And so you get this sophisticated company selling this product that it's hard to understand. That's the reason we exist. We're in this space in between that consumer and that insurance company. Agents fill much of the same role we do too. But if you can't get satisfaction from your insurance agent in getting something resolved, you come to us, or we encourage people to come to us. The second thing that we do that's really critically important is managing regulating the insurance companies. And mostly in two areas. One is to make sure they don't make misrepresentations to you when they sell you an insurance product. It's easy to misunderstand this complicated product, but we want to make sure there's not patterns of misrepresentation developing. And we also make sure they are financially solvent so that they can pay your claim when it comes due. And that latter part becomes a real issue in life insurance again, just like I talked about those companies that had to be shut down way back in 1871. That same issue exists today. We don't have scam companies set up like we had back then, but we do have to make sure that a company has enough resources to pay your claim. And then the other third thing we do that takes about 10 of our 110 employees, and that is licensed insurance producers. We have 22,000 people in the state of Kansas who are licensed by our department. And that's a lot of people. They're licensed agents. They have to have continuing education that they have to keep up. Every 2 years they have to come back and show us that they got their required continuing education. And then if they haven't had some misdeed or run-in with the law or a felony or something, well then we reissue their license. If you think about it, an agent really is in a position to gain your trust, and you confide in him with a lot of things, including some very sensitive information, your personal information, your financial information, all kinds of things, and we just don't want to have just anybody. It needs to be a professional minimum level. Let's talk about health rate increases just for a little bit. And would you give me a 5-minute warning here? Because I get on a roll on health insurance rate increases. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty. And let's talk about why for just a little bit. So you know that we had rate increases coming into our department of about 37 or 38%. Not so much here in the Kansas City area, but more outstate. We got those pushed down to about 25% increases. If you are on the exchange, or if you are buying a qualified health policy off the exchange, that means you don't have to pay a fine when you do your income tax filing at the next spring, if you buy a qualified health plan. In Kansas, we have about 3.2% of the population on the exchange. We have another 1.5% that buy qualified health policies, so just under 5% in total. Those people are going to be getting up to about 25 or 6% rate increases, and that will in fact slow the growth of the exchange. And in fact, I wonder if it might make it level off. But we've got some rate increases coming that are staring people in the face that are not good. And then I'll also share one other thing. We have the company that writes 59% of our policies on the health care exchange here in Kansas, on the federal exchange here in Kansas, gave late notice just very late last week said they're not going to renew because the losses are so bad. The losses are incredibly poor on exchange policies, and that's coming from a couple of places. One, people know they're going to have to get a hip replaced, or they know they're developing diabetes or something. They will go buy a policy, or somebody will buy a policy for them. It's the sick people who are actually getting on the exchange. And it's costing these companies incredibly significantly.